What'd you say this time, man?
Okay. Sir.
Senator Vance, Chris Cameron at the New York Times, you were talking about the relationship between crime and immigration, and my question is on that issue.
Please.
In an interview when you were running for Senate in September 2021, you were speaking with Jack Murphy, and you were talking about previous waves of immigration to the United States. You said the following: you had this massive wave of primarily Italian, Irish, and German immigration, and that had its problems and that had its consequences. You pointed to these problems as being higher crime rates, ethnic enclaves, and inter-ethnic conflict. Should the United States have prescribed similar policies to what you're proposing now, including mass deportation, to deal with those issues?
That's actually a really good question. That's actually like an insanely good question, because Irish and Italian and German immigration have basically made up the bedrock of American culture today. Like, a huge amount of modern American culture is directly derived from that. And now we think of that as classically American. What we think of as like a New York guy is literally just a modern American integrated version of what was considered a slur against Italians or Irish immigrants 150 years ago. You know, like they became American because we accepted them as American. New Yorkers are still like different. They're different. New Jerseyites, they're still different. Like other parts of the country, and a lot of that is derived from the immigration. You know. And white? Yeah, but they weren't considered white back then. That's the thing. They weren't considered white. And nowadays, we're kind of shifting the bar a little bit in what we consider white when it comes to Latin people, right? Because there are a lot of Latin Americans who are, I mean, let's be clear here, descendants of Portuguese and Spanish settlers who rape the fuck out of the indigenous people in Latin America. Sure, okay, fine. But like, you know, where's the line? Are Serbs white? People from the Balkan? I mean, you know, it's kind of variable. There are some pretty tan white people out there. Weren't a lot of stereotypes against the Irish just applied to black people later? The way the way Irish and Italian people were able to kind of get out of the ethnic rut they were in was by effectively distinguishing themselves against black people. For a while in New York and other places, like highly industrialized urban northern settlements, Irish people, Italian people, and black people were all in the same tenements, the same slums, along with Jews. And the like pull apart there was Irish and Italian people basically going, well, at least we're not black, right? Am I right, fellas? And then they got, you know, that was kind of like the push off, right? White supremacy and like white identity has never been about an in-group, really. It's been about distinguishing yourself against the out-group, which I guess is what an in-group is. But what I mean to say is that whiteness has never been a cohesive identity, ever. It's never existed. That's why you never hear about white pride, and then you go to like white pride, and it's people actually being proud of their identity. White pride is entirely about hating non-white people, right? Irish pride is a thing. Italian pride is a thing. Spanish pride is a thing. Even German pride, though we should be careful. We should be careful with that one, you know. Japan was a fascist empire 80 years ago, and Japanese cultural celebrations are not only normalized, but in a lot of cases non-problematic. I don't have an issue with people like wearing kimonos and having takoyaki while talking about, like, I don't know, Shinto shrines nearby. Like, you know, like, yeah, there's a lot of Japanese culture that Japanese people are proud of that doesn't really have much to do with the subjugation of other races and cultures. But white pride, mostly about like distinguishing yourself against people who are outside the group. Anyway, just a tangent here, but yeah, can you imagine if we had just like mass deported all the Irish and Italian and German people, which is, by the way, what people like not Benjamin Franklin, no, it was Benjamin Franklin, wasn't it? Was it Thomas Jefferson or Benjamin Franklin who talked about them as they were like Germans were too swarthy for America? Germans. It was Benjamin Franklin, yeah. Which is what he would have wanted. If we had deported them then, what would America be today? Like Britain too? Ridiculous.
Well, first of all, I also said there were a lot of benefits to that wave of immigration, but has anybody ever seen them?
Did you say that about the current wave of immigration? Or was it just because those ones were full of people now considered white that you were okay with that? Are there any benefits to the current wave of immigration that you've talked about? No?
Movie Gangs of New York. That's what I'm talking about. We know that when you have these massive ethnic enclaves forming in our country...
Ethnic enclaves. This is language that you use when you're in internet debates. This is not language that you use when you are running for vice president of the United States of America. My man is not beating the, like, I got my information on immigration and race politics from 4chan accusations. Republicans, I'm not weird. Also Republicans, I am framing my race politics in the context of like the gangs of New York. What is it, 1880s? You know, ethnic enclaves. You know, I would have been opposed to the Irish immigration wave. Yeah, Jesus, fucking Little Italy is an ethnic enclave. Well, yeah, that's the difference, man. If you're like from a white group, your ethnic enclaves are cute and like interesting and distinct, you know? If you go to New York and you go to like Little Italy or Little Greece or any of the like, you know, wide variety of white European subculture, it's like, oh man, look at the food here, haha. But then it's like, you know, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rican, Cuban, any non-white group, though Cuban expats tend to be pretty white for a variety of reasons here in America. And it's like, oh wow, these ethnic enclaves. You get all what's the musical? Why am I blanking on the musical? You get all hey, Officer Crumpkey, that one. Come on. White boys and, what is it, Puerto Ricans? West Side Story. Thank you. Thank you. One of the most well-known musicals. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. You get all West Side Story over it. Like that. Yeah, Sharks versus Jets. Spielberg remake of that was pretty good. I like that. I just don't like anyone who says ethnic. Well, it's kind of one of those no words in politics, not because it's not relevant, but because usually if you're indicating, like if you're using language like that, it often, if there was no other way for you to make your point in this realm of civility, it usually points to something negative. Now, I say ethnic all the time, but that's because I know I'm not running for the vice presidency and I can make my points with a little bit more flair. I can talk about stuff in depth, you know? I don't think that Bernie Sanders would say ethnic when he's talking about equality. I think he would just say equality, you know? Is ethnic bad? No. There's nothing wrong with the word. But again, ethnic enclaves, it's just one of those terms, you know? Yeah, it's contextually telling, exactly. Dated as well. Yeah. Ethnicity is just as cringe as race. Well, ethnicity basically just means culture. That's kind of what it means, right? Like an ethnic group is a cultural group in a lot of ways. You know, you can subcategorize, but that's kind of like they're in a lot of cases kind of used interchangeably. It's certainly not the same as race, and it's also not the same as like, I mean, you're not doing like a biological assessment necessarily with an ethnic group. It's, you know, it's variable. Again, a lot of these things we just kind of like gesture at an idea. We don't need hard definitions. True, but Vance really seems to be using it to other. For me, the most telling thing is that he's like, okay, but there were some good things about the Italian and Irish immigration waves, but he doesn't say that about the current immigration wave, you know? And by the way, back in those days, illegal immigration was functionally like not a real thing. Literally, you get off the boat, you're in America. You think they're tracking down people over their like migrancy status in 1872? No. You wander into the country, hello. The specific laws that we refer to when we talk about the modern immigration system are relatively recent. It takes a pretty, you know, complicated surveillance state to even maintain the boundaries of a, you know, of a modern day immigration policy. You needed a family to sponsor you, though. For one, sometimes. And for two, even then, sometimes it was like, yeah, I have one cousin who lives in America. Here's me and my entire Italian family. We're here to do crime. And they love their crime, those Italians, and we love them for it, don't we? We love them for their crime. We got so many good movies out of it. You know, The Untouchables, GTA 4, a good movie. Exactly.